Hey folks, welcome to yet again another state tournament preview, second school we're covering. We got George Washington coming up next. We covered Scott last night, but we're here on the island in Logan, West Virginia, home of the Wildcats, the defending AAA state champions. Well, John, last year they were the number 1 seed led by Noah Cottrell. This year, this team, no Noah Cottrell, but they still had Deontay Coleman, Paul Williamson. Right. They lost Paul Williamson. They got a couple key losses to some in-state teams down the stretch. Right. Winfield and George Washington, a lot of folks feel that they could have at least split, if not win both of those. But, they come in as the 7 seed, right, underdog this year, but they're still defending AAA state champions.
Yeah, anytime you have a kid of the caliber of Paul Herbert Williamson in your back pocket, at any given night, he can go off and score 50. I've never seen a kid, outside of maybe one of the guys we're going to talk about later, Zach. You got to see him at AB. He's got some range. Back to Paul, got the same kind of range. The kid can shoot the basketball. So, and if you're Hatcher, you love having that. And then you put athletes around him, and the 15 and 10, Tony, it's probably not real fair to judge them because they have played a very tough schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of, they started out against an out-of-state team right off the bat up at the Coalfield Shootout, Brook Point, Virginia. They won that one by 53-48. You could tell by that it was going to be a team that needed to find its gel without Noah Cottrell. They took care of a very athletic, tough, team out of Virginia.
Oh, yeah. When they came up there, that's the first game they played without Noah. You take a top 150 player out of the mix, people are going to stumble. But as the season went on, they just kept building, and it emerged real quick, about 2 or 3 games into the season, that Paul Herbert Williamson was going to be the leader of this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they took on Capital next, but then they probably played what was the hardest road trip of the year. They went down to South Carolina. And they, first game off, they take on a Irmo team, and I'm pretty sure they won the big class state championship in South Carolina. Their tournament's already done. And they only lost to them 68-62.
Well, their enrollment was over 6,000.
Right.
That's unprecedented. That means they win it in AAA. Just break it down, everybody a little bit of math, 6,000 kids, means they would probably win it here if they were in West Virginia.
Yeah, that'd be like all of Kanawha City School District.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
They only lost them 68-62, so that right there showed you that Logan was they were for real this year. Mm-hmm. They were like we're starting to click a little more. But the next 2 games didn't go as smoothly. Lost looks like 78-64 and 75-59. One team, both teams out of Georgia. So it just shows you what kind of competition they were playing. Right.
Well, then look, when they come back home here, they reel off 4 straight. Winfield, Chattanville, Wheeling Park, and then they went down to the MLK Classic that we were fortunate enough to be a part of at the Veterans Memorial Fieldhouse in Huntington, and beat a very, very good Chesapeake team. So.
And what 2 games in Wheeling Park and Chesapeake games were, too, by the way.
Absolutely. The buzzer beater that Paul put up on Wheeling Park when it was here.
The and one, yeah.
Man, I tell you, that still gives me a chill bump when I go back and watch the videos. And anybody that don't know what we're talking about can go on to wvsportsnet.com and look for the Logan versus Wheeling Park game. It's clip 6. It's the last clip. Yeah. You'll see just an amazing act of individualism. I know that sounds crazy, but Paul Williamson took over the game.
He really did. He did. It was a nice pass from Stevie Browning, but still, Paul Williamson had the athleticism to race up the court, and draw the contact and finish the and one. Yeah. And then he followed that up with another performance against Chesapeake, going for a loose ball, hustling and getting a loose ball, and getting fouled from behind, making 2 free throws in the last seconds.
Yeah, if you're Chesapeake's coach, that makes you sick because he was fouled going out of bounds when the game was surely going to overtime. Who else in the state, Tony, that we've covered gets to the rim and absorbs contact better than Paul?
I tell you what, we've covered 35, 36 teams this year, and I haven't seen anybody else.
I'm telling you, the kid goes to the basket as good as anybody in the state.
He finishes. He not only draws contact, more times than one he's going for what I like to call the 3-point play the old-fashioned way. But, we've seen him score many times this year, 30 points here, 35 points here. I think there's one game he scored 42, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. I think that may have been the Wheeling Park game.
We'll go back and check that.
Yeah. Well, either way, we've seen him score over 40 points. I do know that for sure.
Right.
And he's been WVSN Player of the Game quite a few times. And we like to spread that wealth around, but it's impossible when he's scoring 30-plus points every night. We covered him.
Well, it was unbelievable. You know, we didn't really get to cover him until about mid-January when they came home. And, man, we got the Willing Park game. Then we traveled with them to the Chesapeake game. And then you look, they hosted Preston. You know, Preston was a contender. You know, and the only reason they're not there is because they're in a tough region.
Right.
So
they lost a heartbreaker to Wheeling
right.
Park in overtime, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, you take Willing Park and Morgantown, where does really Preston fit in with them? You know what I mean? Like you said, 2 or 3 points. You know, that's how close that region was together. But just to think about those games alone, the performances he put on, Tony, when we come over here, when we would talk about it on the way home, like, I can't believe we just saw that.
Yeah, and then, you know, we're missing one of them games there in the middle. They're probably the toughest opponent here I'd say second we saw when Princeton Day Academy came here.
Right.
We know we got to see a player in Chris Thomas, you know, number 1 overall shooting guard in the sophomore class, you know, and also the number 4, number 5 overall prospect. You know, he came in here with a solid team around him, and Logan hung in there. You know, the first half they were there.
But you could that's the difference in a high D1 player, right? And I mean, and everybody else. Chris Thomas, when he come onto the court, we were up kind of high, and we thought, well, you know, he don't really look that special. But Tony, when he got the basketball, I mean, it was Katie barred the door because he done what he wanted to do.
Yeah, probably one of the more impressive dunks I saw all year when he was going 1-on-3 against 3 Logan fenders, and he just split the paint, and all 3 of them just went up and crammed it one-handed, left-handed too.
It looked easy too, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you don't even really appreciate it until you go back and look at the film. You're like, oh wow, like that was impressive.
That was,
right. But you know, again, just a tough schedule. You know, they take on a Cabell Midland team. They take care of them, you know, at home. And then they had Northland, Ohio come in. Now, if a lot of people are wondering, like, that name sounds familiar. I mean, we've talked about this a lot.
Right.
It's where Jared Sellinger played. Yeah. The standout freshman at Ohio State this year. And his dad, Satch Sellinger, is the head coach, and he has the number 1 team in Division I Ohio, which is equivalent to AAA in West Virginia. You know, and they're currently in the regionals up there, the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and you know they're playing out a tough area, and they were ranked in the nation, if I'm not mistaken, in one poll at 25th.
Right. It was probably right around that time frame that they traveled down here too. You know, give or take a week or two, because you don't really know how updated the polls are. You know, that we read on the internet with everybody else. But then you look, and after the Northland game, but they really felt like they was in it. They come and took care of the Route 119. It was the second meeting against Chapmanville.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they handled their business in their house, and then they traveled up to the Big Atlantic Classic.
And that was a real letdown for the Logan. You know, they had higher expectations than what the results were.
Right. Yeah, because they beat a Washington team, which is out of the Eastern Panhandle, if I'm not mistaken, right? And then they had to go up against Beckley, a.k.a. Woodrow Wilson, whatever you want to call them, the Flying Eagles up there. They get the job done. And then poor Hatcher, he comes down on February 12th and he tries to go to Willing Park. And he had all the bus troubles, and, you know, it was a numerous hour trip to get to Willing Park. So that was 2 big stumbling blocks there when they lost to Woodrow Wilson and Willing Park.
And I think the Willing Park, was that the game that Paul Williamson, the first one he missed, or was he playing then?
No, he was playing then.
He was playing then. Yeah, you know, real tough game. 76-51 loss to Woodrow Wilson, and then it seems like a 93-60 loss at Wheeling Park. Wheeling Park getting some revenge for that last-second buzzer beater they had down here. I'm sure that was a nice old piece of humble pie for the Wildcats.
And that'd have to be when you get served up by 33, and I mean that's tough. But you know they rebounded. They come back. They played Huntington at home. You know, what's it look like 2 days later, and that's a regional game. You know, or a section team in your region. And they beat them by 6. But the storyline of that game, Tony, was when Paul got hurt. You just alluded to it.
Yeah, okay. I knew I was somewhere around there. We're getting warm, like an easy bake oven there. But, you know, like you said, they went up to the Charleston Civic Center. You know, we were up there. We were fortunate enough to cover that game. But you could clearly see that team was not the same team without Paul Williamson. And George Washington with plenty of size, and Taekwon Gordon, Thomas Frankie, who we'll get to see tomorrow night. You know, they're a very, very formidable team in AAA, and they're just as capable as winning it as any other team that's up there in the Final 8. And they took care of business that night, 79-62, and what was a lopsided game.
Yeah, because, I mean, you didn't have Paul automatically take 30 points off the board. I mean, I know that everybody says, well, you can't really say that. Yeah, I watched enough of him to know that he's going to score between 20 and 30 points. So that was a big letdown because you know that he wanted to go over there. He had the big stage. He had the primetime game in Charleston Civic Center. But, you know, Hatch may learn a little bit about his team that night, though, because, I mean, Deontay and Stevie both elevated their games. I mean, I know they got beat, but it's little moments like that you think, man, that's what set them up, to make this run.
Yeah, and also during that time, that was when Trevor Andrews, the big man, foreign exchange student from Canada, went down, and they're still without him as that poor man broke one ankle, healed it up, and then the next game back, he broke the right ankle.
The same break, Tony.
Yeah, same break, different ankle.
That's wild.
It's sometimes luck ain't on his side. We wish him the best for recoveries too, because he really is a great kid.
Yeah.
We've got to spend some time with him this year, and he really is a gentle giant.
Yeah,
I guess.
real humble.
So they were without, that had disadvantage against George Washington, but then they had to go home against Winfield, and probably another, and you could just, once again, we weren't here to cover that for. We could tell you could still Logan was trying to find a sense of direction without Paul and Trevor in the lineup, and they still didn't have Dustin Woody back too. That's another thing. Where they were waiting on him to get eligible, and that whole fiasco from his transfer from when his family moving from Chapmanville to the Logan School District. So without them, tough loss to Winfield.
Right. But then you look what they've done after that, Tony. I mean, they've reeled off 5 straight. Paul came back. They didn't get Trevor back, but then they introduced Woody into the lineup, and the Cats really hadn't looked back since then.
Right.
That's wins over Parkersburg, at Parkersburg.
That's tough.
They beat Capital at home. Then they went to the Veterans Memorial Fieldhouse and won 2 games, Lincoln County, Huntington.
Right. And then, they got to avenge that last loss at home against the Winfield team, and that was the one because here we are. But score 71-52, so it looks like the cylinders are starting to click once again. Firing on all cylinders, I should say, are the Logan Wildcats, or like we like to call them, the Cardiac Cats.
Man,
with all the thrilling wins they've had this year.
And it's been tough, hasn't it?
And losses, too.
I mean, I couldn't imagine being a coach. I would be eating Rolaids because I would definitely have heartburn, especially being on this coaching staff. You'll get to hear from them guys coming up. But it's been great, Tony. We've been in Logan. It's real easy for a program like Logan, to kind of say, we got enough, we got our own. But that, Hatcher's been nice enough to let us in, give him a shout out, appreciate him and his coaching staff, and the numerous people that see us when we come over here, and they're good to us. So, absolute top shelf guys, top shelf.
Class organization, and all that goes to all of our schools. Right. They know who they are. Right.
Right.
And and that's what we like to build. And this is a growing experience. Yeah. It's been a great year for us so far. We got one more basketball thing to go. Then we're on the baseball, softball, spring sports season. But 33 games, some behind the scenes. It's been real and real fun.
Oh yeah. I hope with one of the 3 teams that we're doing these state previews, Tony, that we'll be able to do a championship.
Hopefully we got 2. We got Scott in AA, and then we got 2 shots. We got a quarter of the field covered in AAA as we got George Washington up next.
Yeah, that's just amazing, because them are top level programs in each division, AA and AAA. We've been with them all year. We got to watch them, and it's going to be real exciting to see how they do. You're the final 8. Here you go. Here's your shot.
That's right. It's win or go home time. Right. Sectional championship. I know it's a little different for me to adjust to because in Ohio it's win or go home, down here. So, but now that sectional championship game, that's the only exception they have. Yeah. And from that regional game, Logan had against Winfield. Next up, Morgantown. We haven't got to see him play, but from what we understand, they're number 2 seed for a reason, and it's very tough AAA, conference.
Oh, yeah. That's a big school, up there, so you can't imagine that they're not going to be any slouches, especially like you said, since they're the 2 seed. Right. So Logan's got to bring their A game. But like I said, he's got Paul Herbert Williamson in his pocket, and that's a great card to play anytime.
Absolutely. We're going to see what happens. We're going to stick around here with us. We got plenty of coaches' interviews coming up. I think we may even get a Jeff Williamson, Zach Green combo in here, too, so real excited about that.
That's 2 young guys that fits around our age bracket, and it's good to see them on the coaching staff, right? And they're giving something back, and both of them were players here. Yeah,
Jeff was on the state championship 2005 team in AA, and Zach Green was a state tournament qualifier his senior year. His only year here in 2004 at Logan. We'll join them, and I think we got Brad Napper and Coach Soup, as I like to say.
Coach Campbell.
Yeah, Coach Campbell. Yeah. We call him Soup.
Yeah.
I don't even know Campbell because I've known him all year, and we're on first name basis. His first name is Soup, and mine's Tony. So
I just know because I work in the school system. I
Right.
read it on his badge, Tony. He didn't even tell me.
But well, we'll be right back with more coaches interviews. My fault on that one. But Tony Lane, John Foster, and just like always, we ain't going anywhere anytime soon. We're wvsportsnet.com.
Your sports voice of the Valley.